Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and once again to the kitchen table for some more numbers and pie charts. This video is the breakdown of all of my business expenses from last year. If you haven't watched it already, I've already done a breakdown of all of my different revenue streams as a content creator, as a freelancer, as a small business owner. And then this video is the expenses breakdown. Now, this is the second year in a row that I will be doing this, so we can actually make some comparisons now. Now, some context in terms of what we're about to look through. This video is going to cover the 2023 to 2024 tax year for my business, and my business's tax year runs from the end of March to the end of March. Now, for that entire time, I still had my studio and was paying rent in the studio. It actually works out quite nicely for us for this case because my tax year ends on the 31st of March, and as did my lease on the studio, ended on the 31st of March, entirely coincidentally. So the studio was still paying for this entire tax year, but there were some things at the end of last year that did change financially. So with the changes that I made in terms of my big career change at the end of last year, I'm no longer working with my producer and I have a video editor, but just for one YouTube channel instead of two. So obviously for the final 3 months of the total year that we're going to be looking at, those are some pretty sizable expenses that will have gone down, but it will be probably more interesting to see next year when we've got a full year of the new stripped down, scaled back situation. The other thing is that there's no more podcast. That also ended at the end of last year. So there are no podcast associated costs for the final quarter of this financial year. I've also made the categories a lot better than they were last year. Last year, I just used the names of the categories that my accountants had set up, but more recently I went in and actually assigned different things to more applicable categories that actually give us a better picture of where the money is getting spent. And then also to note that this breakdown doesn't include tax and it doesn't include paying myself. It's all of the other expenses. But before I show you the pie chart and we dive into the details of it, I wanted to first thank this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Whether you're just starting out in the freelance world or you're a small business owner, Squarespace makes it super easy to create beautiful websites, engage your audience, and sell anything from physical and digital products to your time. All in one place and all on your terms. Squarespace has this new thing as well, which is called Squarespace Blueprint, which is essentially an interactive website design experience. So it is a fully guided process in creating your own website, and it takes you through all of the steps and it guides you through it, holds your hand through the process, which is definitely something I need. But Squarespace is just brilliant in terms of all of the different templates that it has and how easy it is to customize and accessible it is for people like me who have no website design experience. And then with Blueprint, it just makes it even easier and just breaks down all of the different things that you need to think about and put together to build yourself a website. And Squarespace is making it even easier to get you paid. If you have an online store on your website, Squarespace has different flexible payment options, making it a really seamless experience for your customers. They accept credit cards, PayPal, and Apple Pay, and in some eligible countries, you can do a buy now and pay later payment plan. And if you're someone who sells services, then Squarespace has client invoicing. So you can manage all your clients and your invoices in a streamlined and customizable workflow on Squarespace. So if you're a freelancer or a small business owner and you want to get your website out there to showcase your work, then head to squarespace.com to start your free trial. And then when you're ready to launch, you can go to squarespace.com/morehannah to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. And now here is what the pie chart of the breakdown of all of my business expenses from 2023 to 2024 tax year. Here's what it looks like. For some comparison, even though a lot of the categories are different, this is last year's one. So let's break this down. What are we looking at here? So the biggest chunk of the pie, which is no surprise to me at all, is consultancy fees at 34.9%. Now, this is what my accountants call this category, and I'm just sticking with it because I don't know what else to change it to. But it's basically all of the people that I work with and I pay, my team. This percentage is down from last year because of me changing around some of the categories, which we will get to. But for this year and this slice of the pie that we are looking at now, this includes the regular people that I pay. So that is my producer, my assistant, and PR. And for the last quarter of the year, just my assistant and PR. The next biggest slice of the pie is video costs at 26.4%. So this is how much it costs to run my YouTube channels. So this includes things like paying for my video editor who works on this YouTube channel and the other one. And then this is more applicable to the Hannah Witton channel, which I don't upload on anymore, but things like a researcher, videographer, and paying guest hosts. And the video cost also includes paying a captioning service so that you have captions on the videos. Up next is podcast costs at 5%. So this is the podcast editor that we worked with and the software that we used to record all of the remote interviews. We only made 6 episodes of the show, which was the deep dive series, in this entire tax year. So this probably would have been higher had we done more, but this is literally just the slice of the pie for that final series that we did. And then of course my assistant and my producer also worked on both video and podcast stuff, but that's under consultancy fees because it would honestly be impossible to like figure out the split of their time between all of the different projects. Next is the studio, coming in at 9.3%, and that is a huge chunk of my expenses that I can just delete now. Done. No studio expenses. I don't work there anymore. I did a whole vlog all on the moving out process and packing up and leaving the space, if you care to go watch that if you're interested. Another 9.3% is my pension. Yes, your girl has a pension, and because I'm a small business owner, because I have a limited company, my company can contribute to my pension. Thank you. Thank you, me. Thank you, my company, me. It's just me. Next is software/computer costs at 3.3%. So this is all of those subscriptions and things that you need to run essentially a media company. So cloud storage, we use this software called Frame to do video reviews and video feedback, Adobe Creative Cloud, and of course I pay Squarespace to host my websites. And there's probably lots more that I can't think of off the top of my head, but it's just all of those subscriptions. And that's 3.3%. I have no idea if that is like high or low in terms of like what is good. I don't know. But everything that I pay for, we regularly use. So I think it's all worth it. Next up is accountancy at 3.4%. I gotta pay tax and I gotta pay my accountants to figure out how much tax I need to pay. And that is just a non-negotiable. Next is travel and subsistence. And I think I was saying this wrong in last year's video, but again, it's because this is a category that my accountants use. And I was like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. But this comes in at 1.2%, which is very similar to what it was last year. And that is basically just like transport, taxis, food, hotels, like anytime I'm like out and about for work and I need to get somewhere or sleep for the night or feed myself whilst I'm working, then that goes under travel and subsistence. Next is sexy old insurance at 1.2%. So I have got life insurance that is paid for through my company. So if I were to die, then Dan would get a hefty chunk of money that would help him pay off our mortgage. And, you know, whilst he's dealing with an insane amount of grief, he's not having to worry about money. And then I've got some other professional insurances that I can't remember the exact names of, but essentially because I work with and pay people, it's handy to have insurance for different kinds of scenarios that may arise, but probably not. Next is telephone and internet at 0.8%. So this is for my Wi-Fi at the studio and my phone bills. So this is another one that will potentially be a lot lower next year, although I was not aware that I also had to give like a certain amount of months notice for the Wi-Fi provider at my studio. I just thought when I handed in the notice for the studio itself, that would be included. Alas, no. So I've got like 2 more months of paying for the Wi-Fi post leaving the studio without actually being there. It's fine, it's fine. But really, someone should have informed me. Next up is styling at 0.5%. The girl's been styled. No, for this year, it has basically just included buying clothes for video experiments. But if I were to ever like hire a stylist for an event, then that would also come under this category. But hey, you know, only 0.5%, maybe we can afford to like stretch that budget a bit and hire a stylist. Who knows? And then equipment comes in at 1%. This year, it was mostly cables that I bought, some lovely sexy cables, and my vlog camera, because my old vlog camera broke, and so I needed to buy a new vlog camera, except it wasn't new, it was old new from MPB, who sponsored a previous video. That's basically what I spent that 1% equipment budget on. Then research in at 0.5%. So for me, this includes any newsletter subscriptions or books that are relevant to work stuff, and that's kind of it. Because of some of the stuff that I do on Patreon as well, in terms of the reading list and like reviews and stuff of films and TV shows and books and things, like because I talk about culture and media online in various different places, like on the YouTube channel and also on Patreon, like I can expense some of that stuff, which is quite nice. Next is charitable donations in at 0.8%. Now this is low, but last year's was actually 0.1%. So we're doing a bit better this year. But I explained a bit of this last year, and I mostly donate to charity through my personal accounts because then you get the added gift aid. But I could potentially do more through my business account because obviously it counts as an expense. And so then what that does is that it lowers your overall profit, and so then you get taxed less. But you don't always want that, because this is something that my accountants explained to me recently. I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not an accountant. This is not financial advice, but this is what was explained to me, which is that it depends on like where you're at in terms of if you want to buy a house or if you're going to be buying a house soon and needing to get a mortgage. Because as somebody who owns a limited company and is like freelance, a small business owner, they will look at my company profits from the last like 2 to 3 years in terms of figuring out like what kind of mortgage I can afford. The thought of that right now is horrifying because my last 2 years of profit have been so I'm really hoping that I get another like 2 years under my belt, like building everything up post mat leave, so that the banks will look at me and be like, oh yes, it's fine. Because right now, it's not fine. Like no bank is going to give me money. Now thinking that it might have been my mortgage advisor that said this to me and not my accountants. Either way, if you don't need a mortgage, if you're not looking to buy a house, then the smart thing to do to be tax efficient is you can bump up your expenses. So maybe you do make more charitable donations, or maybe you contribute more to your pension to like increase your expenses, and so then your profit is lower, and so then you don't pay as much corporation tax. However, if you want to get a mortgage, you actually do want your profit to be higher. So that's the other consideration there for me in terms of charitable donations, is that I do want my profit on paper to look higher so that in the future, I can get a mortgage, like for a house. We currently have a 2-bedroom flat. I want a house, please, with a garden. So that's just something that since they told me that, I'm like, okay, we're not adding more to the pension contributions yet. So next up is entertainment at 0.2%. This includes tickets to fun things that were work related, or if I was vlogging it. So for example, the ticket for the Shakespeare's Globe tour, that was an artist date and that I was filming, and then just various other things that, you know, if you work for a company and then you like go out for dinner and drinks on the company, like I haven't done that this year, but that is the kind of thing that would come under entertainment. For the most part for me, this year it seems to have been tickets to fun things, and it's all coming up as like ticket seller and things on my statements, and I can't remember what they were. But that's just 0.2%. So maybe we can increase the entertainment budget once I get this mortgage. Postage, packaging and stationery, or PPS, in at 2%. So this was less than 0.1% last year. And this dramatic increase is because this year we did the Patreon special offer of the stickers. And so there were a lot of envelopes, there were a lot of stickers, there were a lot of stamps to buy. And in fact, there was a lot of postage that I ended up paying for twice because of various different reasons why the stickers were being sent back to me. And so then I had to send them out again. So that ended up being quite a bit of money. And this category basically only ever really gets spent on if I'm doing a Patreon special offer. Because other than that, like, you know, the cost of like a pack of pens or whatever other stationery I might need is going to be minimal, at less than 0.1% again. We have bank charges in at 0.2%. So this is just fees, PayPal fees, like paying for the business account that I have, bank charges, great. And then finally, in our other category, this comes to less than 0.1%. So I just bundled a whole bunch of tiny things together. But this is foreign taxes. I don't know. That's for my accountants to know. I don't know. Design. This was actually its own entire category last year because of the redesign and rebrand that we worked on with a graphic designer, but those expenses are minuscule this year. And then legal and professional, so this is just random admin stuff and like paying something to do with company's house, just legal and professional stuff. And then getting a leaving gift for my producer when she left at the end of last year. Would that count as subsistence or maybe entertainment? I don't know, but I stuck it in other. So there we have it. I think it will be really interesting to see how this all changes without my studio next year and with a full year with the scaled back team. But this year I found it really useful to properly break down the podcast costs and the video costs in terms of like specifically how much it costs to make those, even though it's still hard with my assistant and producer to kind of like parse out their time spent on things. But no surprises that people are always going to be the most valuable thing and the most expensive thing. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it interesting, nosying around in my business. Don't forget to subscribe because I make new videos every week, and I'll see you in the next one. Hope you're all well. Bye.